Imagine enlisting in the military to protect your nation from external threats, only to be tasked with domestic policing duties like supporting immigration enforcement. This stark reality is sparking heated debates among veterans and active duty personnel alike. But here's where it gets controversial. Are these deployments crossing lines that could challenge the very oath troops took? Let's dive into this eye-opening campaign that's putting these questions front and center. Picture this. In Fayetteville, North Carolina, a billboard boldly challenges passers-by with the question, "Did you join Airborne just to provide security for ICE?" This is one of two signs recently erected near major military installations, the Army's Fort Bragg and the Marine Corps' Camp Lejeune. These billboards are spearheaded by a coalition of veterans through organizations like About Face, Veterans Against the War, and Win Without War. Their mission? To connect with service members who might be grappling with doubts about the legality of their current or upcoming assignments, especially as the Trump administration ramps up the use of military forces for internal tasks such as immigration control and law enforcement. The signs point viewers to a dedicated website called Not What You Signed Up For, where troops can find secure email and messaging options to reach out for guidance. This platform links to valuable resources, including the GI Rights Hotline and the National Lawyers Guild's Military Law Task Force, offering expert advice on navigating these tricky situations. As Harrison Mann, Associate Director for Policy and Campaigns at Win Without War, explains, we have several cities where the administration has threatened or announced sending in the National Guard, or pressuring governors to do so. Mann, who resigned as an Army major from the Defense Intelligence Agency in 2024 over the Biden administration's support for Israel's military actions against Hamas, emphasizes the importance of informing troops about their rights and choices. So far, the groups have funded 3 billboards strategically placed for maximum visibility. The one at Fort Bragg is positioned along key routes like Bragg Boulevard and the All-American Freeway, catching the attention of countless troops entering through the main gate. At Camp Lejeune, it's on Lejeune Boulevard, right near the bridge leading to the base entrance. They've even deployed a mobile billboard on a truck cruising around Washington, D.C., where National Guard units have been stationed since August. This initiative comes at a time when the Trump administration has been deploying troops for law enforcement purposes since last summer. Unlike routine disaster response missions, these assignments have faced widespread opposition from local officials and residents. For instance, consider the 700 Marines and 4,000 National Guardsmen sent to Los Angeles in June to secure federal buildings amid protests, or the over 2,000 troops from 7 states currently in Washington, D.C. Additionally, about 1,700 National Guard members from 19 states are authorized to assist Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, with around 1,500 actively involved in administrative and logistical support. This includes tasks like collecting biometric data, scheduling appointments, and managing fleet costs, as seen with units from the Virginia National Guard. Progressive veteran groups and military legal experts are increasingly worried that troops might receive orders conflicting with their personal ethics or potentially deemed illegal in future courts-martial under shifting political leadership. And this is the part most people miss. The campaign aims to empower service members to question these directives proactively, rather than in the heat of the moment. One expert troops can consult is lawyer James M. Branham, who notes that many younger recruits are voicing, "This isn't what I enlisted for." Meanwhile, more seasoned personnel are often just waiting it out, keeping a low profile. Branham anticipates more inquiries from unhappy guardsmen, but has been counseling active duty troops who sense trouble ahead and are anxious about future developments. Brittany Ramos de Barros, organizing director for About Face, Veterans Against the War, draws from her own experiences to fuel this effort. "I was influenced by a military culture that convinces you that dissenting means you're isolated and flawed, with no options," she shares. But you're not alone. There are supporters ready to help. Tabaros enlisted via a Reserve Officers Training Corps scholarship, served in Afghanistan in 2012, and became disillusioned with the disconnect between the military's proclaimed goals and on-the-ground realities. As a captain in the reserves, she spoke out about the war and civilian impacts, facing court-martial threats before her discharge. She views domestic operations as echoing lessons from Afghanistan. The military's core function is to execute violence efficiently, not engage in peacekeeping or diplomacy, which she calls unrealistic. This extends to today, with the National Guard policing U.S. cities and aiding immigration matters, she says. Anyone deeply familiar with the military knows deploying Marines to LA for peacekeeping is utterly contradictory. For Mann, whose 13-year Army career never prompted questions about order legality, the politicization of these deployments is a game changer. He and fellow veterans want troops to be aware of their rights and encouraged to seek answers. I don't want the first time a soldier or Marine considers defying an unlawful command to be amid chaos in Baltimore or Memphis, he warns. We need to spark these discussions now, both inside and outside the military, to highlight the risks. Delving into the lawful orders doctrine, the military's manual for courts-martial allows service members to refuse orders they believe are unlawful, or that a reasonable person would recognize as such. However, as Branham points out, they do so at their own risk, with the burden on them to decide correctly. A military judge would ultimately rule on the order's validity. Recently, a California federal court declared the LA troop deployment unlawful, violating the Posse Comitatus Act, a law restricting federal military use for domestic law enforcement to prevent abuses like those seen in historical events, such as during the civil rights era. This act ensures civilian authorities handle internal policing, barring military intervention unless authorized by Congress or the Constitution. In response to the Billboards, Pentagon Press Secretary Kingsley Wilson dismissed Win Without War as not a veterans group, funded by Democratic sources for poorly designed graphics. He praised the Department of Defense's collaboration with agencies to secure borders and communities. But is it permissible to use billboards to urge troops to scrutinize orders? A 2014 Supreme Court ruling in a case involving protester Dennis Apel offers insight. Apel, who protested outside Vandenberg Air Force Base in California for 17 years, including an incident where he used his own blood in a syringe, faced restrictions. The court upheld the base commander's authority over surrounding areas, even designated protest zones, affirming military control. This raises provocative questions. Should troops have the freedom to question deployments? Or does that undermine chain of command? Is using the military for domestic duties a necessary security measure or an overreach? What do you think? Do these billboards empower service members or sow unnecessary dissent? Share your views in the comments. Let's discuss whether this campaign is a vital check on power or a risky challenge to military discipline.